Without the power of God behind everything I do, I really am completely inadequate.
I'm helping the culture. These guys are part of us as well. You know, these guys are our cousin. I'm helping the culture. I'm pushing the culture forward in another way.
Hey, black child, be what you can be, learn what you must learn, do what you can do, and tomorrow.
What do you do after you read? What do you do after you know all, right? And you can say that you're truly conscious. How are you putting what you know into action?
This is the Initiative Radio Show, shifting the paradigm through conversation on any and everything relating to our communities and culture. Now introducing your new girl, Jasmine Renee.
Hey, what's up? It's your new girl, Jasmine Renee, here at the Good News Radio Station, bringing to you the Initiative Radio Show. I'm not by myself today. I have guests. Last week, I did not go live because I was on a retreat, and we had such a great time. And even before, I remember, if you listen to a few shows back, Kamari Carter was on, and she was talking about the book that she's putting out. And we talked a little bit about the retreat, but I think Kamari and I had no idea how dope the retreat would actually be, and it turned out to be such a good thing. So we have the ladies that came out to just share space and stuff and just experience Kamari and her dopeness, and we just experienced her book. So that's what the show will mainly be about. But in terms of stuff that's going on in the community, if you guys have ever been to Spoken Word Sundays, Trisha is pregnant, the one that is putting it together, and her baby shower is today. So I'm pretty sure there's a lot. I won't be going, but there's a lot of people that are in the community that do artistic things that will be there showing so much love to the family. So congratulations to them. And we also know the things that happen every Monday and every Tuesday. Monday, the Juice Joint at the study days. At the study is Unplugged. And shout out to Unplugged because last night they had their 4-year anniversary. So it's dope that they've been able to continue on what they've been doing for as long as they have been. Because 4 years is a long time, and they've been going weekly for maybe about a year and a half or 2 years. So I think that's pretty dope. Shout out to them. What else is going on? Do you guys have anything that's going on? What you guys have? Where you guys are performing?
A book reading.
Yes, Shakira's releasing her book
Yes.
on Wednesday at World Stage, and that's also where Kamari talked a lot about it when she came. So. Shout out to Shakira. Do you want to talk about it a little bit? Shakira was on the trip, so this is Shakira
Yes,
Peterson.
sure. So I have a book of poetry coming out on the 16th. It's a book of poems and Polaroids. So each poem has a matching Polaroid that I took either before the poem was written or after. So I got a proof of it last week. Okay. And it looks amazing. Okay. Yeah, I'm really excited. Yeah. Exciting. Yeah, I'm really excited. I have a really fancy event planned. It's cloud themed. So the name of the book is The Letting of a Little Water. It's from a quote that I found years ago. You know how you just screenshot stuff? And I just had it in my phone forever. But the quote goes, heavy hearts like heavy clouds in the sky are best relieved by the letting of a little water. So I just took the last part, the letting of a little water. For me, it kind of just symbolizes the importance of just being in tune with your emotions and just, letting yourself cry when you need to, letting yourself be mad. I feel in today's world, everyone's trying to be oh, I don't got no feelings, trying to, put up this wall. Right. But I've always been the exact opposite. I'm very sensitive. I probably cry at least twice a week minimum. So I always just try to promote that. And so I thought it would be fitting for my book to just promote that whole thing as well. So the whole book is cloud themed, and the event will be cloud themed too. So we have some really cool stuff planned. So
that's dope. Nice. So make sure you guys are there. What are you starting at 7:30?
Yeah, it starts at 7:30.
Okay, so at World Stage, it's over there in Leimert Park area. So make sure you guys are there. this Wednesday. It will be, I mean, every time I go to World Stage, it's always like a cool energy to be around. It's just a cool place. And what they're trying to do for the community is really dope. So I always feel good walking in there. But yeah, I think that might be it. I'm trying to, yeah, can you get it? I think that might be it. I know I told you guys, well, let's introduce the guests first. Kamari just walked in, but who you just heard from was Shakira. Did you want to say a little more about yourself? Or?
Sure. My name is Shakira. I'm 25. I'm an Aquarius. No, I'm just kidding.
I like long walks on the beach.
I like long walks on the beach. No, so my name is Shakira. Like I just mentioned, I'm a writer. I went on that retreat not expecting anything and got everything. So I'm really excited to go in depth about it.
Right. Ayana.
Hello, my name is Ayana Monet, and I had the pleasure of being on this trip last week, and I can't wait to share more about it with everyone. I'm an aspiring actress, singer, writer, and part-time comedian, so see how things go.
A newfound comedian. Right. We'll let Kamari get settled in a little bit, but Brittany, did you want to?
Hello, everybody. I'm Brittany. I'm just here to share my experience from the retreat and chime in wherever I feel, the need to chime in.
And she's a singer.
And I'm a singer.
Right.
An amazing
Almost
singer.
forgot.
Right.
Immaculate.
Hi, I'm Dejanay, aka Deja D.
Hey.
I like to sing, write poems, turn them into songs. I have in the past started a magazine, and I'm looking into getting that running again. And I also am just working on some writing. That's what I want to get back to, the creative writing.
Okay.
And I'm also here to share my experience on the retreat.
Yes. Kamari, did you want to? Kamari's not a stranger, but she's been here before. But for people that aren't familiar with the show that we did a few weeks ago, you want to share a little bit about yourself?
Hey, everybody. Oh, can you add? I'm kidding. Hey, everybody. My name is Kamari Carter Hawkins, and I'm a writer, poet, facilitator of retreats now.
Yes.
And I do a bunch of different things.
Yes.
I'm a multifaceted
The list goes on and on.
artist, so that's what I do.
Yeah. So that's who we had on the trip. And there was one more, Melena, who's like an amazing singer. She's just a light and just an amazing person. So she's also a poet, apparently a rapper, and like a whole bunch of other things. So, yeah, that's that. I did kind of a little bit want to talk about, before we get into the show, about like our experience at Joshua Tree. I did want to talk about the R. Kelly thing that's kind of like surfacing and everybody. So if you guys want to chime in, you can. But for the listeners, it kind of like bothers me that we are everybody's like up in arms and is like mute R. Kelly, and everybody wants to like put these posts out about how wrong it is when he wasn't the first one to do it. And I feel like a lot of industry people knew that that was what he was doing, even when they were doing songs with him. So to me, it's kind of like a slap in the face, like, oh, my publicist told me to put this letter out so that I seem like I'm standing in solidarity with the victims. I think it's something even about a year ago, even when I first got the show, sexual harassment and sexual misconduct is something that I've been talking about, especially when it comes to black women, because 60%, I believe that's the number of black women, will be raped before the age of 16. And 8 in 10 of them will be raped by somebody that they know. So when you think about it, if someone does tell you that they were a victim of sexual misconduct, you most likely, if you know them pretty well, you know who it is, you know the person that did it to them. And that's my thing, where we love to get on Instagram and we love to say hashtag mute them or hashtag, that wasn't right or whatever. But why aren't we fixing the people or fixing the situations that are in our communities. I think a lot of us don't speak up when we see things. I think a lot of us turn a deaf ear and a blind eye to certain things. And it's really haunting our community. So the whole aspect of muting people and, you know, saying I'm going to take my song off of the streams and stuff, that's cool and all, and I understand that people are doing that to hit people where it hurts, but I think at the same time we have to be very proactive and very intentional about what we are doing, because there are children who are suffering as a result of this. There are women, there are men who are suffering as a result of this, and taking to Instagram is not necessarily the best thing to do when you're talking about trying to prevent sexual misconduct. And the numbers are very gruesome, even for Black women. For every Black woman that is a victim of sexual misconduct, there are 15 that go unaccounted for. So if you just look at the numbers and then you multiply it by 15, it's an alarming amount. So muting these people and telling them that they cannot use their talents is not what is going to stop sexual misconduct in Black communities. Actually speaking up and saying no is no, you can't do this, or actually being protective of our children, or actually, you know, calling a spade when you see it, and not just being like, oh, you know, she'll get over it, or because I went through it, she'll have to go through it as well. So that's kind of my take on it. I'm never really big on like people taking to social media to handle issues. One, because I'm like in the schools and stuff and I see it a lot. There are a lot of girls who like suffer from this and they have to wake up and come to school every single morning. There are a lot of women, there are men that are suffering from this. So I just think there are different things that we do need to be doing. And yes, R. Kelly is a topic of discussion now, but what about the men in our family? What about the women in our family that are behaving negatively? And I think even with R. Kelly, people have said, like, you know, he's a victim of sexual misconduct. And that just speaks to the generation. Why didn't anybody step in and try to speak to him, you know, and try to deal with that? And maybe we wouldn't have surviving R. Kelly if someone would have took the time out, maybe when he was 10, maybe when he was 12. Now he's over 40, and we have a list of victims that are there because of what he's saying, because this is something that he experienced. So I think we have to do a better job as a community. And even if things do happen, we have to do a better job of, like, therapy is good. Talking about it is good. Working through your issues is also, like, is a good thing. But my thing is always like, so if we do this, how does it prevent this from happening again? And I just really am not seeing the footwork and the groundwork, and us rolling up our sleeves and really trying to put a stop to sexual misconduct in our community. So
yeah, I think the whole social media thing, the reason it's happening, because I started watching the documentary, and when that was happening, that whole trial, was that 2012? I was 14, 15 in college. I mean, high school, not college, high school. And I remember that going on and being, like, really skewed about it. And now as an adult, you know, 15 years later, looking at this documentary, I'm upset. And I was thinking, dang, like, what do I even do about it? Like, as just a solo person, I felt stuck. I felt like, dang, maybe I should just take this to social media. Like, it seems like the first step, like, first reasonable step within our means, because we're so riled up. Like you said, it made us angry, made us mad, and we're just like, I want to do something about it. What do I do? Let me put it on my Insta stories. I don't know. And it's like, I wish we could see, like, we have a lot of discussion, but, like, actual steps. Okay, now that you're mad, this is what you do. Call this number. Do this. Have a rally. Have whatever it is. It's like, we always do that. We always get mad at stuff. We always having riots, and then we're just stopped. Because where are the, like, practical next steps? And I was thinking, too, like, now that this has come out and I'm, like, older enough and I look back in hindsight, I think of all the times I've been kind of, like, not, like, messed with, but, like, the boys in my life have, like, done things to me, climbed on top of me, said they was going to do this. Right. I felt uncomfortable spending the night at a friend's house. And, you know, I don't know. Now, I didn't know what to do about it then. I couldn't really speak out about it because you're a child, and it's like your mentality is skewed. You don't really know what to do, and so then you just figure it out and you let it go, and then it comes back years later, and it's like, wait, that was wrong. Now what do I do about it? And I think of some other guys in my life that I know right now dating somebody hella young, she's like later in her teens. He's 30-something. She's 19. I'm like, wait a minute. That ain't right. And I'm mad because I know the parents. Parents ain't saying nothing. Do I say, I'm far removed, like, we're not that tight, but do I still say something? I want to. Like, you don't need to be dating this. I don't care if she is of age. She's a child. You're in your 30s. You're old. And I think that is so... Anyway, I set out to say, what are some practical steps when we are faced with the men in our life? Do we just call them out? You wrong. And then what? Do we call the police on them? Like, what actually stops this from happening?
I feel like we definitely should call them out, only because I think, like, especially, like, when you're young, like, when I was young, I remember, like, you know, maybe, like, just when you're, like, a little girl, you can just feel, like the presence of an older man who's just, like a predator. Like, you can just feel it, like, you know, and then it's always, like, I remember I used to go to a babysitter's house, and she used to always say, like, you know, don't wear those shorts, or, like, you know, like, if other men are around, like, you know, don't put that on. I'm like, maybe you shouldn't tell the little girl what not to do, and tell whoever you're trying to protect her from. Like, clearly, you know, there's an issue here. Like, you know what I mean? So I always felt like, I think, like, in the larger picture, of course, R. Kelly is awful, but in the larger picture, I think everyone should take a step back and look in their own families and be like, okay, where is this situation occurring in our family? Because when I talk about this to, like, men in my life, I tell them about it, and they're like, I can't believe men do that. Like, I feel like there are guys out there who really think, like, that this doesn't happen on a regular, when I feel like I'm sexually harassed once a week minimum. Like, taking public transportation, just someone looking at you, like, it's just a very small thing. So I feel like this is a conversation that should be brought up in every single household. I think everyone needs to sit down and be like, on the basics, like, this is what sexual harassment is, like, this is what, because I feel like it's just not talked about. And so, like you said, these men grow up thinking that it's fine, like, oh, but she's 18, but really it's not even about a legal age. It's about, like, the mindset of a girl. Like, she's still a child, like you said, like, you know. So I really do think it's a conversation that should be had, and not just something that should just pop up on social media for a week because we're angry about it, like, you know, hashtags and stuff. I'm like, no, this is, like, an important conversation that everyone should literally, like, log off and talk about to the people around you.
And I also feel like what you were saying about the man, why is it that we're not, sorry about that, the man, I wonder, just as black men and black women, if sometimes with us women, we see the hardships that they're going through. Oh, they get pulled over by the police. It's hard for them to get a job. They're the angry black man or whatever. That we find little ways to excuse them.
Like, protect them, kind of.
We find a way to protect them. You're wrong. And I think that's sometimes, too, why there might be some that still might even try to protect R. Kelly, because it's like, oh, the black man's always in jail. We got this many percentage of black men in jail. Let's try to keep him out. Well, no. You're wrong is wrong, and you need to go to jail. Yeah, you need something.
And it's funny you say that, but quickly, Chance the Rapper did an interview, and he was just like, maybe I didn't believe him because, you know, R. Kelly is from Chicago, Chance is from Chicago. He was like, because we're from the same place, or maybe I didn't believe it because he's such a musical genius, or maybe I didn't believe it because it was black woman. And I'm like, I was having a conversation, and somebody was like, you know, we all do that. And I'm like, but when we have been hearing so much about black men being killed and brutally beaten in the streets, we don't go, what did you do? It's insensitive to do that, or to say, well, maybe they were right. And I'm like, you guys have to give us the same grace. Like, you guys have to give us the same open-mindedness that when we hear, and even though there are, even with Stephen Clark, like, the stuff that came out about him and what he was doing, and them saying that whether he was breaking into cars or not, like, yes, he was wrong in doing that, and yes, he should have been in a jail cell and not a grave, and still, as I'm not even going to say just black women, and still as a black community, we still stepped up to support him and say he shouldn't be dead. So I think it has to be the same way with us. Regardless of what it was, we should still be believed on first account. It shouldn't be, oh, they're innocent until proven guilty. No, if I said this, just at least take it for what it is. At least look into it. But I just think there's a difference, and people don't look at it like that. You know, black men's downfall has been the police right now. And ours has always been for us, the number one rate of death for Black women right now is dying at the hand of like a lover or being on a date with somebody. And I think when I started the show, the number one rate of death for us was cancer. And since then, the men have trumped to number one and cancer is number two. So it's just like, if we're saying something, there's a good chance, because the statistics prove that things happen to us. So there's a good chance that something might actually be up. So I think it's just something to pay attention to. But go ahead, Deja.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, as far as like how people are seeming to, people in the industry or people that are fans are seeming to like protect R. Kelly, you know, and the you know, what's seems to be accusations against him. I mean, honestly, I didn't see the docu-series yet. I didn't see the sex tape. But I think what's more, but what I have seen or heard is actually like things that he said himself or things that he's done. If we were just watching his actions and like things that he said in the song I Admit and things like that. I mean, it shows that there is some kind of issue with the way that he thinks, you know, what he believes is right. And I think I think the protection should have started a long time ago. Like you said, like when we're children, whenever the situation happened with him when he was molested, there should have been protection then. I have like a great uncle who I have heard, you know, in my family that he has dated young girls, got a young girl pregnant, like they got the same young girl pregnant that his own son got pregnant. Wow. And so, I mean, I honestly, like, always, when I was a young girl and I would be, if he would come around, I would always feel just weird around him. Even before any of those things came out, I just felt like he just couldn't be trusted. You know, he already had, like, an ex-con type of background, but he was just, you know, just seemed like he was not right. Right. So, I mean, like you were saying, like Shakira was saying, we need to like pay attention to those that are in our family and protect, you know, our own family. Start there, and that's how we can change what's happening, you know, in society. I don't think that we care enough about people and their mental state and just how they behave. You know, we do turn a blind eye and a deaf ear, and that definitely that has to change first. So,
just to piggyback off you were saying, I really do think that just at the core of this, it's more about like believing Black girls. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like I always thought that Black girls were always hypersexualized, or like, you know, maybe because we have like bigger hips, or like, you know, people think that, you know, we want the sexual attention, or like, oh, she's just being fast, or, you know, she wants that. But it's like, even if that were true, maybe you should still look into why she thinks, like, why she's even attracted to that. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like there's always something going on in the background that we don't even look into. Like, why is she fast? Like, why is that something she's looking for? Like, you know what I mean? So I think that's because when I saw that Chance the Rapper interview, and when he said like, oh, maybe I just didn't believe them, I was like, well, why? Like, you know, and then when it's like, it's not one girl, it's not two girls, like, it didn't happen this year. This is like a decade of, and like, multiple
in your
women.
Face because of what Aaliyah. Like, there was something that there was context with it. So my thing was just like, you know, I feel like when things are on a minor scale, there are certain steps you need to take. But I think at this point, because like it hit me hard maybe about, like a year ago, like having to have a meeting and with my co-teachers and trying to figure out how do we deal with a child that was going through that. And me thinking, well, she comes into class every day smiling and she's happy and this is going on at home. And I'm like, it made me feel like there's a dire need to put a stop to it, to stop and to call people out, or to, you know, just like you said, call people out. Like, you know, stop trying to, oh, well, that's family and it's whatever. Like, no, it's not okay. So yeah, that was my spill on that. And go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Were you saying the subject?
Go ahead.
Oh, I just was gonna read that quote by Malcolm X. Like we were talking about like black women and black men and that whole responsibility. And like I know we all heard this quote on the Lemonade album, but it's like the most disrespected person in America is the black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the black woman. The most neglected person in America is the black woman. And I read that because I think we know all of this, and that was back in, not that long ago, but still several years ago. And even then, we were still unprotected, disrespected, and neglected. And at what point does that change? And I think that's why I always feel like when it comes to black women, we're the only ones that like save ourselves, because we're the only one that believe ourselves. We protect each other. We respect, and at what point do we put the responsibility on the man? And it's like, it breaks my heart that like, I just feel like they don't care anymore. And I don't know what it's going to take for the black men to listen to us and to love us again and to realize that we are each other. And I think that's what at the core of this is. Even when like pregnancy, like a lot of black women die because they feel that, that black women don't feel pain, or they have a high tolerance of pain.
Yeah. And
I think that translates over into emotions. Like we have a high tolerance. Oh, you could take this. I'm going to abuse you. You could take this. Or even, when I lost my train of thought. But I brought all that up to say, like, I think this is a deep-rooted issue, even with us being sexualized back to, like, Sarah Bartman, the Hottentot Venus. Mm-hmm. They put a display of her naked, big boobs, big breasts, big butt, big everything, and they're looking at her. There was no protection for her, and that still translates down to now. Where is the protection? And the lack of answers is what stops us. We're like, what do we even do?
Yeah. And it's to that point where when hold on. Keith is in the comments. He said, "What niggas are you talking to? What do you mean what niggas are we talking to?"
Like dating or talking about?
I don't know.
Well,
you
I
have a clarify or call in, Keith.
Needs to call in. Yeah, call in. Call in. Come on.
And then he said it's a lot, but not believing 60% though where those stats are coming from. Well, you can look them up. They're on the internet on multiple sites. I will send you a screenshot, Keith. But that's.
Well, once
there's
again,
there's the problem.
Where's the stats? Where's this coming from? You don't believe us. Why don't you believe us?
Not? I don't understand why that's not believable.
That is the issue right there.
Yeah.
Like, instead of you being like, wow, I didn't know y'all go through that. Right. The first thing you are is on the defense. Like, we're not talking. Defense. If you're not a part of the problem, then clearly we're not talking to you. We're probably talking to your homeboy or your brother. Like,
and that's what I've had. Last year around December, I had a really dope conversation with Hub City Dre and Rio from the Hub Radio in Compton. And we sat here, and as we were sitting here, Rio was just basically like, and they're like just goofballs. But we had a conversation, and of course we had some laughs and stuff. But he was like, when he was a freshman in high school, he was on the football team, and of course he would, you love hanging out with the older boys or whatever. And he said they would do things, or like they would have bring a girl over, or one boy would bring a girl over, and he would be, having sex with her or whatever, and they would turn the lights off, and they would form a line. And while the lights were off, they would switch. So apparently she was like, this is not the same person, turn on the lights. So, like, they were like, once the lights come on, like, it's over or whatever. And he was just like, I was in 9th grade, and he was like, he didn't really realize how wrong that was, because they just told him, like, oh, come on, this is what we're going to do. And he just thought that was what it was, and he's just hanging out with the older guys. And he was just like, us having this conversation really made him think, like, wow, like, they were so wrong back then. And he said he never really thought about it until having the conversation today. And even though he was like, I didn't act on it, but I was just sitting in the room, he was just like, men are so quick to say, like, I ain't got no boys that do that. Like, my boys, we solid. Like, we don't interact with that. But it's like, do you know that? Or are you just hoping that the men that you hang around are not perpetrators? Like, do you really know that? So Keith said, have any of you guys... Well, I don't think...
What you say?
Have any of you guys been raped? I don't think that's...
What?
Right, Keith.
Oh, my God. Call
He said
in.
I would call my daughter listening to Kids Bop on the...
What?
Jesus, I can't read. On blast in the background.
Say that again.
I don't... So he asked... I don't think that's a question that you just go around asking women. Like,
we invite you to call in, sir.
Well,
please, come on.
Statistics show that one of if that was a question that I would even be comfortable answering. First of all, statistics show that at least one of us in this room have been
So I just
raped, molested, touched, violated. That is all.
Yeah, we're not just talking about rape. I mean, some things I think come out of just young, like some people just not parenting their children and protecting them, and young girls being, I guess, just sort of left out there to kind of look for love in the wrong places. It's about older guys taking advantage of, a young girl. So, I mean, I don't know what he's seeking out of asking.
Right. He said, is this not the platform? I think there are platforms when people are willing to share that, but I don't think you just walk around and ask people, oh, have you been raped? Because that's like that's like going around and asking a man, like, have you been, like, fucked in your ass? He's going to be up on, like, why would you ask me that? That's so wrong or whatever. So, I'm going to send you the screenshot right now, actually.
Yeah, I would like, but I also think that the fact that he's like defensive, that says something. Like, we're not against you. Like, at what point are you gonna like realize that we're your sisters? Right. You don't know me personally, and I don't know you, but you are my brother. And why can't you just believe us? And I also think, oh my God, it's almost like, have you seen those posts? Oh, can we stop talking about this? Can we stop talking? Who is posting that? Right. Men. I've seen a lot of men agitated by this. Right. Can we stop talking about R. Kelly? Can we stop? No, we're not done talking about it because you don't just brush over this. Right. Like, this is deeply violated to your soul as women, and you don't just brush over it. You don't just get over it. Why don't you try to seek understanding? Why is this going on? Why are we talking about this? And care. Like, why don't you care? Why don't you care?
And why is the first thing always like, but were you raped though? As if anything else isn't just as horrible as if like me being sexually fondled.
And then the thing is, even if, let's say, even if none of us have, how many women can we count on our fingers that we know that have been? Like, even if none of us have, and no one, I'm not pressuring anybody to answer that question, but I'm just saying, I can go down a list from when I was in high school, when I was like, and they talked about it so casually to the point where I was like, wait, why, like, what, like, why is this? Because my parents were very sheltered. They didn't let me out of their sight. Right. And I thought, I was just so irritated by it when I was growing up, like, oh my gosh, I cannot do anything, whatever. I mean, but it was for a benefit. But I would listen, and I'm just like, wait, why is that happening to you guys? Like, like, nobody's watching you, or like, what, like your uncle did that, or like whatever. And as being in high school, I would sit there and be around people and just be like, I just didn't understand it. Like, 15-year-old me was like, why would people do that to you? And I was really like, oh, so everybody has a story here, and I'm the oddball, and I'm thinking that people that are, that are victims of sexual misconducts are, it's a few numbers because of how I was raised. But
and why don't we only care when it's just rape? Like, it's like, I only care when you've been raped, not what led to that. And I think that's where people try to protect R. Kelly, because he didn't technically rape them. He made them feel comfortable. He molded them. He manipulated. He shaped. So technically it's consensual, but it's still wrong. Like, rape is not the only thing that's wrong here. There's abuse. There's manipulation. There's wrong touching. You should not be molesting. You shouldn't be doing any of that. But why do you only care if we've been raped?
I see his comment. He says, "I'm only arguing the statistic, nothing else."
But what's the point of? But that's the point where we spend time on arguing the statistic, but we don't spend time on arguing whether the people in your family are acting in that or not.
I think what moved me about all this is that there's a face. We can see faces, and you can't ignore that. Maybe you can disregard a number, But when someone is talking to a camera, this kind gentleman who decided to chime in, we appreciate you, is basically saying, okay, one of you express, a story, or can you really relate to this? Well, there are women who have come forward and who have put their own reputation on the line. Even going back to the Supreme Court nominee, people come forward and are vulnerable. And it is heartbreaking to still see the same reaction. It's like, look, we need compassion. I'm hopeful because new generations come and they, learn from the past. And I think with social media, there's a community of like minds, whether they're on a higher level or a lower level. But I feel like there's more of a collective vibe about like, we need more compassion, and I appreciate that we're even talking about this, but at the end of the day, it's like, we need more compassion. We need more protection. Yes, Black women are strong. Yes, Black women are resilient. Yes, we protect our own, but we can be weak too. We can be vulnerable too. We can be attacked too. And we need your help, and that's what we're asking for. When it's your own daughter, it becomes very clear. I think sometimes men compartmentalize how they feel about women depending on the proximity and it can't be that way anymore, guys. Like, we're your sisters. Like, we need your help. We need your protection. We're not trying to attack you. We're trying not to be attacked.
Yes.
At the end of the day, hashtag compassion, dude. Like,
right. Yeah, and I just think to Keith, like, there are some times where things just don't need to be, some things don't need to be argued at certain points. So whether or not you have a number to fight that, like, some things just don't need to be said. And regardless of whatever the number is, please understand this, that for every one Black woman that is a victim of sexual misconduct, there are 15 that go unreported. So even if 60% is not what is being put out and what we have listed, for every one, 15 are going unaccounted for. And that is on multiple sites that you can go and look at. And I've been seeing that for over a year and a half. So there's no argument there.
So what would change his mind? An article? Like, you have 6 real live voices,
right?
Real live women, and yet you want to see an article,
right?
Yet again, you're not believing us. Who even wrote that article?
Right.
Sally in the office, maybe. We're telling you right now what's going on, and yet you don't believe us.
It's like, oh, I need numbers to prove.
I need numbers to prove.
Why are you trusting those numbers over us?
On rape, right? It was just on being.
Well, it's
sexual misconduct,
sexual abuse,
sexual abuse, sexual harassment.
All of that is under an umbrella.
So yeah, if you are listening, I think that we just saw, like, in Lifetime, kind of what we're asking, like, to not happen, kind of. But yeah, it's just one of those things where, like, yeah, the numbers matter because you see it on a very magnified scale, but then at the same time, the numbers don't matter. If it's just 1, if it's just 2, if it's just 3, we still need to fight the same way. But the numbers have shown us that it has gotten out of hand for way, way too long. And he said, how is that possibly known if they never report it? That doesn't make sense. Okay, Keith, we're not going to keep entertaining you.
You provide a perspective, but we provide a perspective too.
It's like, what is he? What I feel like he wants us to say. Okay, we're lying. Like, what do you want?
Right.
Like, what
like,
do you?
Oh, you got
what am I?
Well, I challenge you, like Dejanay say, talk to 5 women in your family and ask them same questions. I dare you to ask your mama, has she been raped? And like, how you gonna ask us?
Right, and this is the reported, I believe, is like police reports. So you can still find out or still go around and do a account of women. Oh, what has this happened to you, or has this happened to you? The same way they did, surviving R. Kelly, they may not have reported that to the police, but that goes in the batch of the 15 that goes for every one that did not go accounted for. So I believe the reported part is what has been reported to the police. And we know good and well that not everybody that is a victim of sexual misconduct is not going to the police. Right. So when you think about that,
some are males.
They're right. And 1 in 10 of all of the sexual victims are male. So that's just, I mean, that's that. So we'll go with that to answer your question. Reported means reported to the police, and not every victim reports to the police. There are probably much more that do not report to the police compared to the ones that do.
Because of the fear. Like, if it's, you better not tell nobody,
or maybe somebody won't believe us because we came by ourselves.
Or you love them and you want to protect them.
Realize what's happened to them
they
right away.
Don't.
Like, they
even
like, about it, and after they hear other people's stories, they're like, wow, I was actually molested.
Right.
It was like in the R. Kelly docuseries. He told his brother what happened. His brother was like, no, that didn't happen. Mm-hmm. And how many times are we told, oh, that didn't happen? Oh, no, just get over it. That wasn't nothing. Mm-hmm. And so, who we gonna report that to?
Rock the boat.
Like,
don't rock.
I mean, there's probably like everyone in here has experienced this. But I remember when I was younger, what boys like to do was like smack you on the butt and like run. I mean, that wasn't
right
okay.
There.
Right.
But I remember like I would hit them sometimes or chase them, you know. But that if you do stuff like that, you're not allowing that to happen. But then at the same time, there were girls in middle school that I would go to middle school with, and there was stuff happening in the classroom, under the table, you know, like, and people sometimes just don't even know what boundaries they should have for their body, you know, like, and that needs to be taught as well, you know, from the time that they're young.
I think, just to piggyback off of what you said, I think that sometimes
Hello.
Keith? It's the one and only Keith Good News. What's going on, ladies?
Oh, this is Keith.
Hey.
Yeah. Hey, Keith. What's up?
What's up? Good morning. I'm calling in because, you know, obviously I was just question too. And unfortunately, because the written word, you can put an emotion on it or a context on it. That's not what I mean. So I think that is making you all defensive versus really understanding what I'm trying to ask or actually state. So had to call in because I don't want y'all to get a misconception of me based on words that's not filled with emojis to make, you know, to play your emotions. Anyways, hold on real quick. My bad. So I was calling, so I'm getting another call. What I was calling to say was, like, we throwing out these statistics that we're not sure of. So what I did was, you said, why don't I believe y'all? I asked all the black women in the room, hey, have you been a victim of rape? Have you been a victim of rape? That's what I meant by that. And that's so that way I can get the story versus some written statistics that is written by who. Now, I do believe that 60% of women in general are victims of some type of sexual misconduct, regardless of being black or white, black women. So I think women in general, because of the way of the climate was of the world, 50 years ago, and even today, you know what I'm saying? And I don't even know when that statistic was taken, because did you fill out a form? Who's filling out? Who are they getting me stats from? So I'd rather hear directly from the people, which is why I asked y'all directly. And I think that in today's climate, as black men, the culture has changed. I think that's an old stigma, and I think that the new generation of men, and specifically black men, is changing that completely. We're changing fathership. We're changing the way that we treat women. So you're saying, hey, we need protection. Who needs some protection from? Other black women? I mean, other black men. You know what I'm saying? And now today's culture, black women have the ability and the desire to actually be strong themselves. And we have to, as black men, understand we have to give room for that. Otherwise, turn into toxic masculinity, which could be too much. You know what I'm saying? At the same time, so I think that black men, especially now in today's climate, are protecting the black woman. I have a daughter that I'm raising, so there's nothing more important to me than the safety of a black woman. So when I'm coming talking from our perspective, it's not to disregard or degrade anything you're saying. I actually agree with everything you're saying. I'm saying that we have to do this, together versus saying, oh, it's a black man's fault, and that's what it's starting to feel like. Obviously, because there's no other conversation from the other end. So I'm just giving that perspective so the conversation, one, keeps rolling, and two, it gives everybody something to think about.
Well, nobody said it was black men's fault, but I also do want to bring up statistics that might seem contradicting to what I'm saying, is that the number one rate of death for black women is dying at the hand of a man. So most of the men that we interact with are black men. So I don't think that the culture as a whole,
you said that how
the
many
number
women died
one, the number one rate of death, the number one reason of death for black women is dying at the hand of a man. And most of the time
hold on. Over cancer?
Yes.
Over diabetes?
And how many times have you listened to this show? Because I've said that many times that number two used to be, it used to be number two under cancer. It has just moved to the top between the time that I've been here and now. Between the time that I got here and now.
I know well over 2,000 black men. Well over.
Bro. We take turns. We're going to take turns.
Well over.
Because we listen to you,
one of them
and I need you.
A black woman.
He's not listening. He's not listening.
Wait, Keith?
Oh, yeah.
I appreciate you and what you do in your world to protect us. And I hear you. It's just, I wish you had prefaced what you were going to say with that, because when you basically started with a question for us to put our own business out there so personally, whether or not we are ready to share that, it didn't show your heart towards this whole dilemma. So I just want to say, in the future when you have these conversations, it would be helpful to the person you're having the conversation with to start that way and then get into it. So I
appreciate that.
As far, I'm just saying.
I would say this just from a radio perspective. I even said it last night on air when I was at another show. I told him, I said, in radio, you know what I'm saying, it's a place, where sometimes, it's built for exposure to expose yourself. Sometimes everybody's not comfortable with that. So I definitely understand that. I was just asking the direct question because in response, you said you'd rather look at the statistics than what's coming out the mouth. I'm asking directly. If you're not comfortable with that, okay.
But hold on, Keith. So what if someone asks, and if someone asks the man, "Oh, has your daughter been raped?" I think he would. I think that's a question where we have to understand that rape is something where it is a very senseless, act that really is penetrating on who you are as a person. A lot of people
I'm not randomly asking that. I mean, that's what we're talking about. I'm not
right, but it wasn't. We weren't sharing rape stories. We were talking about the community.
That, but we were talking about. We were on this subject, so I was asking to get clarification from you all, so I can get a statistic of the room versus a piece of paper that we don't know who's talking about this.
Yeah, I'm just saying there has to be a sensitivity when it comes to asking that question. In the same way, you can't just go and be like, "Oh, was your dad in your life?" or "Was your dad in your life?" How about was your mom a hoe? You can't ask those questions.
Yeah, it's very specific.
No, I feel that.
I think we should. I think this conversation kind of spiraled into arguing statistics and numbers when we were trying to talk about something else. I feel like if we were just to take away, pretend we never said any numbers and pretend we never said any statistics.
I can accept that.
I think we're losing the focus of what the conversation
is. It's a lose-lose because if I wouldn't have given numbers, then people would have been like, "Oh, well, it's only a few or it's not that many." So if you give numbers and then people are like, "Those are not the numbers," you don't give numbers and people are like, "Where are the numbers?" So they're the numbers.
Because we don't know. For real, we're not taking no polls ourselves, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, I was just, like I said, I wasn't arguing nothing else. I actually agree with a lot of y'all saying. I agree with that. The black woman is at the bottom of the totem pole in America, especially, you know what I'm saying? I don't disagree with any of that. Only thing I was arguing, like I said in my segment, was just the numbers. So if we remove that, then honestly, I have no argument. I'm enjoying the conversation, ladies. And I appreciate y'all.
All right, thank you for calling in. Or did you have something to say?
Hello,
I'm still listening.
Keith?
Yeah.
Hello, is Keith? Hello?
Keith.
Are you still there? I think
he's still listening, so he'll comment.
No, I was just going to ask him how old he was and if he could think
Keith
back.
Is 30.
30? If he could think back personally in his own life, if there was anything he ever noticed, like in the neighborhood, with friends, maybe in his household. Because if I think back, personally growing up in the neighborhood that I grew up in, there's certain things that I remember seeing that were not right. There were, we were all kind of like teenagers, but there were younger girls who were being taken advantage of by some of the like older guys. And I remember one time saying something like, okay, why are you following him into his house? Like, and they're like, oh, who are you, Captain Sabaho? Like, that was the response from the guys rather than the other guys being like, yeah, that's not cool, don't do that. But I'm just saying, like, maybe if you even, like, in your own personal life, your own personal experience, if you think back, maybe there was something that you might personally have noticed if you really think long and hard about it.
Yeah.
And it might be even more believable to you just how easy something can go down.
Yeah. It's very, it is definitely like a tough situation, and that, me and Keith will have a talk later. But that's what, that is what the platform is for. So no, it's not to call people out and have them just expose their bare, self. That's not what it's for. But it is for these conversations to happen. So hopefully he'll have a new perspective on it, and the next group of women that he is around, he won't just ask that question. But I hope he did understand, and in the same way I'm guessing we are taking how to better respond to men that feel like that. But yeah, it's a real thing. Shout out to RJ the Poet. He is in the comments, and he said he's catching up. He said he thought the number one killer was stress for every person. Well, talking about black women in particular, so it's not everybody. Black men are not killing everybody. But I'm saying for black women, that's the number one. And you don't hear the numbers because it's not important to people. The only way that I've heard the numbers is literally listening to podcasts that are directed towards black women. That is the only form or platform that I've heard the number on. And then you have to go and do research to actually find the articles and the numbers behind it. But yeah, and I've literally been paying attention to it for the past year, and actually saw when they put out the new numbers that made being killed at the hands of a man number one over cancer. And it's not all black men, so don't think that. It's just men in general. Go look it up, Keith, if you want the numbers. But we're going to transition. Did anybody else have anything else to say?
So before Keith called in, I was going to say, piggyback off of what you were saying about, like, I think some of the issue is that women are not taught how to love themselves and how to honor themselves, and that they're worthy of love and respect. And I think that sometimes when things happen to us, we blame ourselves for it. Like, well, maybe my skirt was too short, or maybe I was sending the wrong message, or it's like we're so quick to blame ourselves before, you know what I'm saying, holding someone else accountable for that action. And I think there's a lot of that going on. And I think that that's something that we really, really need to work on within the community. Like, teaching, like, nobody teaches self-love. Nobody, you know what I'm saying? There's no classes, no education on how to love yourself and, how to value yourself. And this is what it looks like for someone to love you. This is what it looks like when someone values you. You know what I'm saying? So I think that that's something that we really, really need to address as well in the community.
Yeah, I think self-love and just understanding the value within our voices and stuff.
Yeah.
And understanding, like, our voices are validated. And it's so sad that we have to be, like, what is the word? Unprogram, basically. The fact that we don't really validate ourselves. Like, as children, we have to grow up, and then we reach adulthood, and we're like, dang, I didn't value myself as a child. Like, I didn't value what I was saying. And like you said, I pass blame to me rather than saying wrong is wrong.
Right.
And this shouldn't have happened. Whether it's sexual misconduct or even just, somebody lying on you and you're in school, or taking the blame for something that you didn't do, and just thinking like, well, nobody's going to believe me.
Right. And I think that's what we feel often.
Yeah.
We feel like we feel like nobody's going to believe us. So it's like, why even speak up in the first place? And why put your vulnerability out there for somebody to just come in and say, well, I don't believe you anyway. That's going to make you feel even worse. You know what I'm saying? And I think, speaking from like personal experience, like I work at the VA hospital, primarily men patients, and I'm sexually harassed like constantly on the day-to-day. And it took me a while to like, I'm more of a passive, non-confrontational person. It took me a while to have, like, to be able to stand up for myself, to be able to speak up for myself and say, hey, you know, that's not appropriate for you to say to me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that I'm not the only woman that is in that situation. And I think that just goes to show, back to what I was saying in the beginning, that we really need to work on self-love and valuing ourselves, because that is not okay. Like catcalling, and that's not a compliment. That's not a compliment.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of women don't know that, or a lot of young girls don't know that it's not okay for a man to be like, hey,
right, calling you from across
you know,
the street.
like calling you from across, just sexual inappropriate. That is not okay.
Yes, it really is. Like, and people don't understand that. And I think even before we transition, when it comes to race, there's a difference. And I think, you know, when white women are in the office and they get catcalled, it's like, oh my gosh, why would you ever do that to me? But it's different for black women, because we deal with that when we're walking out the house.
Right.
We deal with that when we're just in the mall.
Right.
And now there's this whole thing of like Me Too, and it's, people are confused. Like, oh, is it sexual harassment? Is it rape? Is it misconduct or whatever? Because the women that are at the forefront, the faces of the Me Too movement, even though I know that it was started by Tarana Burke, we see a lot of white faces, and they're talking about a lot of catcalling things, and we don't think as black women that that's something that we could go to the board about. We think like we'll just be hushed about it, and I think that's kind of like a different that's just a different kind of era, and it's a different playing field that you have to look at. Not every advocate can advocate for all women altogether, because it's seen differently. We deal with things differently, and we're dealt with differently. Black women are over-sexualized. Not too many other women are over-sexualized the way that we are. I think even it comes down to our skin color is attractive. Regardless of how you really look, I think like our skin color kind of like speaks to people in a way. But we're going to transition in a little bit.
Can I just say
Go ahead.
one last thing? I think that I guess I would say the main issue, or where that all really comes from, is the lack of not saying it's, I know some of us might have grown up with fathers in the household, but I feel like those guys that are doing that catcalling, they're not being brought up right or trained on how to be a gentleman. So if they don't know how to treat a woman right, or whoever they're learning from, if they're learning from dudes in the street, you know, if they involved in gangs or whatever they're involved in, whoever they're learning from is not teaching them how to respect the opposite sex. So if that's what they're used to and that's normal to them, then they're going to continue to do that. That's why we do have to call, you know, we need to call each other out. You know, and make a big deal out of it. Like when they, you know, like in my neighborhood, when they was looking at me like I was a problem because I was trying to stop something that I didn't think was right. You know, you should still just keep pushing through, despite if it's cool or not. Because in the end, we're going to have situations like this, you know, with like our Kelly situation.
And many more. Because there are so many that are on the forefront. Or not even on the forefront. There are so many that have been happening, and just looking at the other names that they've named, Russell Simmons, Diddy, Jay-Z, those are all things where they were doing the exact same thing that R. Kelly was doing. R. Kelly kind of like abused his power. Granted, they ended up marrying these women, but if Aaliyah were still alive, we may not have known about R. Kelly, because she maybe would be like Beyonce and still married to him, or be a Kimora Lee Simmons where she had children and we're just best friends. But they were they were younger. They were much younger than these men, and they were underage. They were 15, 16 years old when they were having kids with these women, or when these women were having their kids. So it's something that has definitely been going on. And like I said, that's why I'm like the industry people. I just think it's a slap in the face to us that you guys want to, we didn't know. You guys knew because it wasn't just him. It's been going on. You guys just happened to stop at a point. And even with 444, Jay-Z tried to right all his wrongs, and he's been doing wrongs for a minute. So that's that. That was supposed to be a 5-minute conversation. But I'm glad that we were able to share that. I hope it wasn't too much for anybody, but I'm glad that we were able to share that, because I need us to focus in on those things, because like I said, there are little girls that we are seeing all the time that are going through this. But let's actually talk about what I brought them here for. Is the I'm gonna show you. Is the retreat. So hold on, let me stop trying to multitask and just do what I'm trying to do.
What RJ talking about?
I'm gonna show you.
Oh. One thing he did just say is that the discussion has many layers to it, and I think that's very true. And I feel like with Keith, I think he just got on the defensive, because I can understand, if I was on the other side and I heard someone say, black women are the number one killer, I would be I would be like, what? I would be trying to, give me the stats. I think he's just being on the defensive, but in the end, we love you.
Right, and nobody said black men are the number one killers. Men. So all of you guys together. So don't feel bad, okay? But yeah, so last week, yes, and hopefully this will lighten the spirits and stuff, because I don't want anybody going home heavy. But I'm not gonna say that. But yeah, so last week, like I said, I was not here, and when Kamari came maybe a few weeks ago, we talked about the trip, and we didn't The comments are wild, okay?
The comments are wild.
So first of all, if you're listening and you're listening on the website, you might want to download the app, because the comments are kind of lit. And if you are just now tuning in, it's your girl Jasmine Renee here at the Good News Radio Station, bringing to you the Initiative Radio Show. I am joined by 5 other women that joined me, or we joined Kamari on a retreat that she curated, basically around her book that she just put out, Right Back to You. And the retreat, when I tell you, because me and Kamari, we sat here and we had a conversation, and we were just like, I think it's gonna be good. I think it's gonna be good. And you were like, it's a cool group of people that are coming, a cool group of women that are coming. You was like, it's gonna be balanced, and you I could just see it in your eyes. You were like, I think it's gonna be good. It'll be cool. And we were excited about it. And even people that were listening to that show, they were like, did you guys go on the retreat yet? Did you guys go on the retreat yet? So we did go on the retreat. We came back on Sunday. And my goodness, what an experience. What an experience. I think having these women here, I feel like I got some of my best girlfriends from all throughout my life to come sit down, and we've only been knowing each other for 5 days. So I just feel really, just happy to have them here, because when I tell you, we really formed a bond like no other. And I was telling my boyfriend, he was just like, what did y'all do? How did y'all get so? And I was like, it really wasn't anything. It was just safe space. It was just a place where we could just our spirits were able to connect in a way. And I feel because I was telling Shakira, because everybody spoke about how we got super close, and I was like, me and Shakira didn't even have one-on-one time. Our one-on-one time was during quiet time, and we couldn't even talk. So I was just I think our spirits really did a lot of work on this trip, and they really did find the loopholes in which we could connect with each other. And I was just very grateful to just experience that, because even to think I was oh well, it's we have games, and it's it's in a month. I don't know if I'll be able to go or whatever. But it ended up just being such a blessing. So Kamari, did you want to tell us a little bit about the book and what you have? Can I see my phone? The book. Oh, let me. Yeah. But the book and what made you want to curate a retreat?
Okay, so I wrote the book because, or the journal, it's a guided journal for writing yourself back into your life. And I wrote that because I wasn't really coming out of, I was in a life mind state of just being lost and just wrapped up in the wrong things. I was overexerted in my underpaid job. I was overexerted in just family. I just felt like I was just split, and I lost myself. And I remember talking to a mentor of mine and telling her about my situation, and she said that you edited yourself out of your life. And I was like, what? And I thought about that, and it's like I imagined myself like striking through, like on paper, myself, like, oh, you want to write? Okay, no, not today, not now. You're gonna put in, your family, or you're this, or taking care of that, or overexerting in work, or doing, and it seems like okay for a day to not do yourself, and then tomorrow it's like, okay, I'll get to myself this weekend, and then you keep pushing yourself out of your life. And I wrote this journal for those that were like me, out of touch with my life. Like, I forgot like some things that kind of lit me up. What did I like? What did I who am I? Just simple questions that who are you? And I wrote all these questions to ask myself. I'm like, okay, I need to remember this part of myself. I need to remember that. And I figured I did it just for the retreat. So the retreat, I knew I wanted to go to Joshua Tree because it looks super dope, Instagram worthy, Solange was there, and I was like, I'm gonna go too. And then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna take 2 women with me. It was initially so small, and I put it out there, and I said, if anyone wants to go, just let me know. And then like my DMs like flooded, and I was like, I didn't think anybody would really be that interested. So at first it was just like a little getaway. And then I said, well, let me try this. I always kind of wanted to do like a little retreat, I don't know, writing and whatever. And so it just morphed into something else, and I got super obsessed with it. And it felt really good to be obsessed creatively in something. Just, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't sleep. So who calling in?
Somebody is.
Who that?
Hello.
Hello.
Hey. What is your name?
Am I on with the crew?
Yes.
Hey, it's M to the E to the Melena.
Hey! What's up?
I just wanted to say hi and good morning.
Good morning.
Awesome, beautiful women of the Grace Table.
Yes.
Hey, the Grace Table.
Every table we touch is the Grace Table.
Yes. Yes, so
I hear it
Jasmine had
loudly
a good idea to just call in and give love and thanks for, all that we experienced on the trip. So I got a couple minutes. I just wanted to listen in.
Aww. We love you, Melena.
We love you too.
Love you guys too.
Well, since you're only going to be here for a few minutes, we just got into the talk about the retreat. But did you want to share a little bit about what you got from the retreat and how it kind of like blessed you? Give a little testimony.
I got a lot from the retreat, and I guess the thing that I would share is I actually read all my journals from the retreat this morning. And it really was the power of sisterhood, of building community with other women, and then also finding joy in being alone as well. Even though I was in a house, with 6 other women, I also found the space and the time to get quiet with my own thoughts and to hear from God and also hear from myself, I think a lot of times with the busyness of life, we don't always get to hear from our hearts and from our bodies. A lot of times our bodies are telling us, I'm tired, and our spirits are telling us the same thing. And I feel like in that moment, the infilling that I received was what I needed. I needed to recharge. And I'm definitely just honored to have been able to be on the trip and blessed to know that Kamari listened to her heart and to the voice of God, and then that you all did the same, to come and attend, because we all, I received something from each person at the table, and it's carried on, like we were talking about. How do I bring this with me home? And I brought it home, and I'm really happy about that. And it's just up, continue to go up from here. Great way to start the year.
An amazing way
Milena,
to start the year.
what are some ways that you brought the retreat home with you?
Right.
Can you share that with us?
Yes, I think what I started at the retreat, I continued. I realized that it came to me, certain things were coming to me, like, why was I having such good sleep? I was asking myself all these questions of, like, what's the reason? Mm-hmm. Yes, I was away, but I also realized I actually got into a routine. There was a routine for me because we each had a moment in the bathroom, at the end of the night, I always went, when I knew that I was probably going to get sleepy, I went brush my teeth, wash my face, wrap my hair up, put on my PJs, and, stayed out for a minute if I was talking, and then when I was ready, went to bed. Because of the busyness of the day, what I had been doing was like, come home, sit on the couch, try to watch some TV, but I'm going to fall asleep watching TV. I'm going to wake up at maybe 2. Then I'm going to go to the bathroom, wash, do all that stuff, and then try to go to sleep. It just doesn't work. It's like I was waking up in the middle of the night trying to go back to sleep, but I was doing things that felt like morning time, And so I've been doing that now. The same routine I was doing there, I'm doing here, and I'm having amazing sleep. I'm sleeping well, and I'm getting up in the morning. I'm feeling refreshed. So that's been, really helpful and amazing to just realize, okay, I need a routine.
So
I'm still a baby.
You developed a nighttime routine. That's awesome.
Yes. I had a little tea, whatever it was that I was doing.
What is
I'm just bringing it back. At work, I love to watch judge shows. I'm sorry, that's what I do. And when I'm at work, I'll be working and listen to judge shows. And I realize while they're funny, that's not really a good thing to have playing through your head. It's still, whether you're laughing or not, it's people's problems and their issues, and it's not creating a positive energy. So instead, I've been playing The Light of the Holy Spirit during work. I'll play healing scriptures, just to background music on YouTube. If I want to watch something silly or fun, I'll just watch it during lunch and be done with it, not have it playing consistently over and over again. And then also just having just music without words. I had kind of started that before I left. And so music without words kind of helps me I realize that it helped me to be more creative. I'm not using other people's words, or they're not, going in my brain to where, even if they're good words, it doesn't matter. It's just music without jazz and classical and things like that. Kind of give you some space to fill the space with what you want. Just taking that time, just recognizing giving myself time to breathe, because I felt like I took a lot of breaths while I was there. So giving myself time to breathe. And last thing I would say, I'm eating a little different. I like that we cooked on the trip. Kamari cooked, but I like that we did a lot of just preparing our own food. And so even this morning, I'm not eating meat, or dairy, but I still did Kamari's soup this morning. And so I had that for breakfast with some water and stuff. So those are ways. I'm just finding little ways to remind myself of what was helping me on the trip.
That's so cool. Thank you for calling in, Milena.
Yes, I appreciate all of you. Kamari, you're the bomb. Everybody in that room is the bomb.com.
And so hopefully we can all see each other soon.
And I've been writing in my journal. So Kamari, I'm really enjoying that. I'm finishing up that book. So thank you guys for all the ways you poured into my life.
Yes,
Thank you,
for pouring
Milena.
into ours. We love you, Milena.
Yeah. Love you too. Love you too, you guys.
Okay, enjoy the rest of your
Enjoy.
day. Okay, bye.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Just in the comments for a little bit. Shout out to Alicia, who's a really good friend of mine. She says she can relate back to what Milena was saying about the YouTube videos. She finds that listening to calming music is definitely better. So, and then another thing I wanted to highlight was like, people think like you have to be like, oh, I'm gonna just change my whole spiritual aura and I'm gonna just not think the same. But like, she literally just said like, instead of going, watching TV for hours and falling asleep, she's gonna do that for a little bit, get up at a certain time and go brush her teeth and wrap her hair and then go get in bed. And then she said, instead of listening to something, all she did was literally type in something different and she's going to listen to something else. And she said it made a shift. So, like, to people that are looking for, like, oh, I want to make a change in 2019, like, sometimes it's the little things. Like, we don't realize that the stuff that we watch. And she's like, I'm laughing at people's problems and stuff. And she was just like, I needed something else to go on in my head. So, little things like that can help you change, like, your perspective on life and just what it is that what you're doing. So, just look at what you do on your day-to-day and see how you can, like, make different changes. If you have anxiety about certain things, like, most of the time we have anxiety because we're unprepared when it comes to things. So how about preparing the night before? Or how about, preparing what you're going to do? Write a list out for the week and just, it's on the list. So I don't even have to worry about that and commit to the list. But little things. I hate when people are just like, oh, I just don't know what to do, and I just whatever. Like, step by step. Nothing is overnight. Step by step. So I think that's something we probably all learned. It's a step by step thing. So.
I also wanted to say for those that are listening, don't really know what the retreat because it just sounds like, what was a retreat? You just had to get together and sleep and cook. Pretty much, like, we just got together. We journaled for a little bit. So in the journal, like, some questions like, who are you? Or I can't also think off the top of my head, but like, oh yeah, some questions like that. And we got together and we journaled together, and then we shared at the end. And I really was intentional on giving everyone free time, because sometimes when you go to conferences or things like that, they fill up your time so much with all this information, and you don't even get a chance to like use it and think about it. And so like, who are you? Write your mission statement, cheer yourself on. What do you love about yourself? Be gracious to yourself. So things like that. Write down your blessings, write down what you are not, protect your space. Thank you. And so those are questions we need to be reminded of like our daily, protecting our space. That's my mantra for this year, because last year I just let everything kind of like anybody come in my life, in and out. I was a permeable sheet. You just come in and out. And I was like, man, I'm just like out of whack. And that was kind of like the retreat. I wanted all of us, and I was intentional on who I brought into the retreat. I wanted to make sure they somewhat knew each other, but like didn't, because sometimes you can free yourself a little bit more with people you don't know, because it's like, you don't know me. I could just whatever, you're a little bit more free. And sometimes you present like the best part of yourselves too. Like you can, like if you went in with somebody that they knew all your issues, and sometimes we don't give ourselves more grace when we know, like, you just tripping. You have issues with this. You ain't gonna get healed. You ain't gonna, like sometimes we think that that's just who you are. You're not gonna be. You're gonna always be bitter, right? And we don't need that. We need to be around new people because we're trying to evolve. And so we got together. We journaled. We cooked. I did a couple of cookings. Meals, and then I let everyone cook for themselves, because sometimes we don't. We busy, just swing through a drive-through, swing through whatever, Subway, or and we don't really like slow down and cook for ourselves. We had like a bunch of different ingredients, make whatever you wanted. We took some pictures. We tried to go hiking. It rained, but that was okay. So that was pretty much what it was.
Yeah, so I think we'll talk a little bit more about how you guys can like experience it for those of you guys who did not go on the retreat. But like for some reason, I feel like Shakira, with your book, even though I haven't read it or even touched it yet, but I just feel like it's such a. I feel like it's a great continuance of the trip, and I feel like so much so that it could have been something that you like that came from the experience that you had at the trip. So like, how do you feel about your book release coming out and your book and after doing the retreat?
I think I found it very interesting because I remember when we were on my way to the retreat and I was talking to you in the car. I remember I tweeted something like while I was talking to you, and I had said I was telling her how I wanted a close relationship with God, and I feel like I met God in Joshua Tree. And I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, like I tweeted it in the car on the way there. And then I also thought, because the night before I was editing, like making some last edits in the book, and I noticed like every other poem I talked about God. And I was like, wow, I had this relationship with God this whole time, like through my poetry. But I feel like at Joshua Tree is where I personally, like literally I felt like he came to me and talked to me, and like we made our own connection. And so I feel like with the book, it was just meant to happen. Like I just really feel like it all just like came together. And it made me be more gracious too. So I feel like if I didn't go on this trip, I think the book release would have been so much more stress-filled than it is now. Like, I would have been overthinking every little thing. I would have been, like, you know, trying to plan out every single detail. But after this trip, I'm just more in, like, a calm space where I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm not going to stress this. I'm not going to stress myself out about this. Like, however it comes out, that's how God intended it to come out. So that's what makes me really excited, because I've never, ever been in that space before. Like, I'm super anxious. And everything is like I'm just like stressing. So I'm really excited because I feel like it was meant to happen. It was meant for me to be in this state. And so I know that the book and the book release is going to be birthed in like the same calming spirit, which is what I intended when I wrote the book. But I wasn't even in that space yet. Like, you know, I just feel like I was writing for like my future self in a way. And so I think the trip really helped me just become the person, or make the steps to become the person I've been waiting to become. Like, I feel like I've been wanting to become this woman for my entire life. And I feel like finally, like, I can start making those steps, or I'm finally at the stage. So I'm really excited.
That's so dope. And if you're just now tuning in, Shakira is having a book release, The Letting of a Little Water, this Wednesday at the World Stage at 7:30. And this is the place, like I said, Kamari brought up when she came down. But make sure you're there, because I really do feel like whatever we have our hand in, it's going to basically be a continuance of what we experienced in Joshua Tree. And I think with it being at the head of the year, it's just so beneficial, and it's so instrumental for us to like carry it over throughout our lives. But Dejanay, did you want to talk a little bit about what you got from the trip?
Sure. Honestly, I feel like everything that, I know it's cliche to say, but I feel like I got everything that I imagined and more. Like when Kamari was telling me about it, and sharing what the experience was intended to be like it was time to get away, have some peace, kind of reset, and just kind of like give yourself time to just get a feel for where you're at in life. And also, of course, just provide this open space, this comfortable space. And that's definitely what I got. But what I didn't know that I would experience was so much love, and meet some women with just genuine spirits. And I think that what Kamari, it was just like this atmosphere was already set there for us, we had open space in the house that we were in, and then being in Joshua Tree, it was peaceful, and everybody just was either like loving or open to love. And I think that just made it more of a comfortable space where we were able to kind of commune with God. She provided the affirmation bath. Right. That's something that Kamari made up, and basically we were just able to just lay out and listen to music that was encouraging, that and it brought in the spirit of God, allowed God to speak, as Shakira said, and just the different moments that we had. We went to the store together, and just, I mean, it was just really a beautiful thing. And I myself personally have been saying, like, talking to God about it, writing about it, like, just of how, like, I desire to have, you know, like, friendships or, you know, close relationships with other women. And I feel like that is what God was blessing me with. Like, I feel really honored and grateful to have gone in that space. And, like, typically in groups, I kind of like I shrink, you know, but I really think that everybody kind of had this way of, like, making sure everyone was included and that everybody felt loved and encouraged. It was not I felt like it was a non-judgmental space, and that we were all in a very relatable space, you know, coming together. So and we've been, you know, continuing to communicate, and, you know, I hope that we just, you know, from this point on, just, you know, keep it locked in.
So. And I appreciate even the group message, because, like, you could send anything, and, like, everyone feels not necessarily a responsibility, but, like, the yearning that we have for each other. It's just like, oh, let me send her, you know, this, or let me send this, even if it's just like, let me just put the little, like, heart thing on it or something. But, like, everyone kind of, like, there's never going to be a moment, I think, where you send something to the group message and you don't get something out of it. Like, there's 7 of us in there, and we're all, like, we care about each other. But Brittany, you mentioned a lot on the trip that you felt like we were all connected, like, in a way that just, it was like a line, I guess, that you kept mentioning. Like, you really just were like, oh, we're so much alike. Like, we have similar stories and stuff. And not that it was like X, Y, and Z, but it was just like, oh, the feeling that you feel, I felt that before, and I resonate with that. So you want to touch a little bit on that?
Yeah, I think that through us sharing at the grace table and writing our journal prompts together, I think that it showed me, and it showed all of us, that we are so much more connected than we even knew. And I think that sometimes you can feel alone in your situation or whatever it is that you're going through at the time, and you feel like nobody understands. But I think that space of just us being able to be vulnerable with each other was a way for us to truly see, like, wow, I'm not alone in this. Like, she feels like that. And then we can offer, like, what we did to get through that situation, or everybody can share. And it really just felt like community for me. And I think that that's what we need. We need more community. We need more spaces where people are vulnerable with each other, and people are open with each other, and people, you know what I'm saying? We want to love. Like, everybody just, it was just an environment of love from everybody. And I think that was so needed. And everybody there was, like you said, kindred spirits. Like, you chose really amazing women to go on this retreat, Kamari. And I really appreciate that, because I really feel like connected to each one of you in different ways. And I, like Milena was saying, like, I took something from each one of you guys with me. And I'll say for myself, I was desiring to, like, have more genuine connections with women. That was a desire on my heart, and I think that the retreat was a start to that. You know what I'm saying? And I really just want to support each and every one of you and any and everything that you guys are doing, and we can really, like,
change the world.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I really just feel like this was like the start of something great. And I don't know where we're going to go from here, but I feel like it's going to be great, you know? And,
I'm excited. And I'm like, even today when I was thinking about it, I'm like, I don't think I've ever cried on air, but I was like, every time I opened my mouth in Joshua Tree, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to cry again. But I think like, and it, I don't know what it is. Maybe it was just the area that we were in and just like the atmosphere. And I'm like, I didn't say this on the trip, but even I posted about it. About how, you know, I went through something and my heart was very hard and I didn't really have emotions and I was still jazzed, but I was like, oh, I'm not crying about stuff or nothing is really moving me to the point of tears. I don't really get sad about anything. It's just rage. And being up there, and I've realized it for some months now that I haven't been in that space, but being up there, I was just like, dang, like, you're really a crybaby again. Like, you just out here, you know, like that has come back. And you don't really miss something until it's gone. So even when I was younger, growing up in the church, I would just cry over everything. Like, and not because anybody did anything to me, but just because it was like, if I had to get up and talk in front of the church, or if I had to do my speech, or if I had to sing or something, it was just like, I would always cry. And being up there, I think on the first night, I was like just uncomfortable. There's something in my eye. That's why I keep touching it. And I just felt uncomfortable sitting in the bed, but it was like my heart, and I literally felt like something like chipping at it, just chipping at it when I was laying down there. And I'm like, and it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I can't breathe. It was just like it was a very physical feeling, but it felt very like internal, meaning like a spiritual thing. And I was just like, it wasn't something where I was startled by it, and it wasn't something where I was like, you know, maybe I should go tell them, like, you know, I can't sleep or something. But it was just like, I was sitting there, and I could literally feel, like, my heart being chipped at. And even since then, like, even today, I'm just like, there's a new feeling in my heart that I have that wasn't there before. So it's just like, just being able to do that on the trip, and it wasn't anything where like I did any like intensive work with a therapist and this is the 10th month and yeah, like I'm finally like set free. Like it took 2 days essentially. And I think it also like matters that you guys were there, because if it wasn't, and I'm very like, oh okay, she's showing this, so let me chill, you know, like, but there was none of that. There was I didn't feel ever like, oh, you can't be yourself, or you can't grow in this space, or like this space is detrimental. I didn't feel that at all. So, I just think like we all kind of got something that was like just sentimental to ourselves. And I think because we were able to experience that with us, that's why we mean so much to us. So, Ayana, do you want to kind of touch on that, or how that kind of played out for you?
I would say that there was a sense of hospitality that we all expressed to each other that basically was unspoken. It was like we basically came together to get back to the point of why we're creative, why we like this community, why we want to be a part of it, unpacking what has interrupted that process. I have this weird relationship with social media, so it was very it was very beautiful to be in reality with dope people.
Wow.
And I couldn't ask for a better retreat. I mean, I'm really appreciative of Kamari for curating this. From when we got to the we couldn't find the rainbow trailer. We got to this.
Oh my God.
We had some trouble finding the house. But when we got there, it was a dope home. There were succulents and just peace and just like this walkway. We get in the house and you're cooking breakfast and you're just smiles and gratitude, and we come in there, we're like, okay, this is all gonna be okay. But it wasn't even about the home. We filled it up. We filled it up with intention. We invited the Spirit of God. We helped each other cry and write, and we were present, you know. And we had moments, you know, with ourselves, and we got to come back and give more But I think my favorite part was what you said earlier, Kamari, about you're on these retreats and it's not a retreat. You're not retreating from nothing. It's more busy than your own life sometimes.
You're not retreating from nothing.
So this was like a legitimate, like, it was like perfectly crafted for my personality. I can be very introverted, but I'm very outgoing, and I need to be in nature. But I also like to be cozy in a nice place. You know, it was just,
That's perfect.
it was really well done, and with the prompts. It gave me a chance to get my pen out. It's been a while. I work a 9 to 5, which is actually 12 to 9, so think about that lifestyle. And it gave me a chance to like, oh yeah, I like this, you know, and I'm appreciating the feedback. And then to hear you guys and to see how all of our stories connect and I love making y'all laugh. Like, that was my favorite part.
And we
You're
love you
hilarious.
making us laugh.
So funny.
But yeah, I would say that yes, we connected. We got to reconnect with ourselves in spirit. Some people got to experience things that they asked for and got in the moment. We got to be there to witness it. We got to just be like family for a second, you know. We got to just lay down the burdens that Black women have every day for a second with like-minded people who understand. There's like a shorthand that we did not have to explain, and we just got it, and we could just rest for a second in a very specific way. And no shade to anyone else, just compliments to, you know,
To
us. So yeah, I'm very grateful I got to be a part of this, and thank you guys for holding space for me and seeing me in reality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we definitely, I think just the sharing of space, and it wasn't like, oh, we're sharing space now, but I think it was literally like a giving effort of like, here's a space for you to experience God, or here's a space for you to make us laugh. Like, we're willing. And then when Brittany mentioned it, like, you just have a sense of humor. Like, we laughed every time and looked at Brittany like, oh, there it goes, or whatever. And then Gabe, you know, when you and everybody talked about this, I feel like, but like that night when you and Shakira were talking, like, she was like, oh, here's a space for you to just tell me your dreams. Like, and it wasn't like oh, we're just sitting at the table and this is our space. But we were like, I want to give you this so that you can, you know, like, not even pour back into me, but I just want to listen to you. And whatever comes out, I want you to realize what you're saying and you take it for yourself. Because a lot of times we don't, like, speak about those things out loud. And that was something that I realized with the prompts is those things we know, but we don't say those things and we don't articulate them. We just, oh yeah, I know that I want to be this, but I've never, like, spoken into existence. Or I know that this is who I want to be, but I've never said it, or I've never actually, like, written it down. And, like, you know, in the Bible it says write the vision and make it plain, and you wrote the vision that you wanted and it literally came. And I think that's a testament to all of us. Like, if we simply just believe that he can do things, he might just, you know, like, come through. And to people, because I know there's a lot of people that aren't very spiritual that are listening, and it wasn't something where you were like, oh, you need to pray. We're having 5 a.m. prayer and 7 a.m. prayer. And we're going to have praise and worship at 12. And then we're going to have Bible study at 5:30. So make sure you're ready. It wasn't that at all. And I don't even think you intended for God to come in the way that he showed up. And it was just one of those things where it wasn't like we in here preaching and the organ is going or whatever. Like, it wasn't even that space. It was just to be able to experience God outside of the 4 walls. And God is not necessarily what you have experienced in church. And I think we were able to see that. We were able to experience him in his purest form, not experiencing him coming out of, you know, the God in other people, or the way that people are bringing him on, like a praise and worship leader or a preacher preaching. We were able to, like, also, this is why the preacher preaches like this, because he has this connection. So now I'm not that I'm necessarily above the preacher, but now I'm on one-on-one time with you, with God. So I think that's really what it was, and it wasn't something to run away from. And I don't think anybody that would have experienced that would have been like, oh no, I just don't want to do God. Like, I just don't want to do, like, no, God is not, you know, he's not good, or we shouldn't, like, participate in that. So it was definitely a space where what you needed could come, and God really showed up. So,
and I think, I wanted God to show up. Like when I put in the little description, I don't know if everybody read it on my website, but it's okay. When I put it out there, I was intentional on saying, I need to hear from this spirit who created me and the world and the stars and the ants, the desert sand, all of that. Like I needed a word, and I felt too that living in this busy life, we just get wrapped up, and sometimes you can just feel like kind of just small, like especially on the freeway, and there's all these cars, and you're just like, I'm just one little person, and it's like, sometimes you just get lost in that, or lost in the business of life, and I just needed to slow down, and I put it out there because I needed people to like-minded women to come who needed the same thing. And I felt like when you said at the grace table, and I forgot the reason why we named it, I don't think we even said it, why we named it the grace table, is because we were at the table journaling, and we have this similar theme on we need to give ourselves more grace. We're so hard on ourselves. Even when we do right or do wrong, we don't celebrate ourselves enough, or we don't even, when we mess up, we're just hard on ourselves. And I said, this is the grace table. I think when I sat down, I said, this needs to be named something. And I didn't have nothing as we taught us, it's the grace table. But I wanted, you said at the grace table, like how precious, like you felt the Spirit said, like how precious is it that my daughters came to
spend time
with me. That's all and that was what I took home with me, is that I needed to spend more time seeking God. And it's like we overcomplicate it. Like, we need to, like you said, we need to be in church all day. We need to praise. And if you don't feel it, keep on going till you feel it. And it's like, that is so, and I often think about God looking at us like, really? What y'all doing? Like, I really, because I imagine, like, like, Father God, come on down. And he's right here. Holy Spirit is right here. And you're like, come on. And it's like, we overcomplicate it. Like, when I, like, scream at Ayana, come on, Ayana. Like, I wouldn't do that.
Or, like, screaming at her, like, yes, that's it.
Come on.
Pull through.
Chill out. It's not that complicated. And so I needed that experience. I needed, and I feel like women, we're connected. We love connection. And I remember, it's just the one you probably not on. But he was mad not mad, but he was like, he felt some kind of way that it wasn't for men. Men couldn't come. And honestly, I left it open. I was going to try and make it co-ed, but I was like, that's complex. I couldn't figure out how to make it co-ed, like to where it would work. And so we were sitting in the living room, bonnets on, shower caps on, pajamas, no eyebrows, just laying. I'm saying, it needed to be just women. We didn't have no cute, because we would have been like, let me get myself. Hair would have been done. And that is not what it was for. We needed to just show up and just be. And so I'm looking forward, like, all y'all encouraged me to want to keep doing it, because I was just going to leave it as a one and done. Like, okay, that was good. But I was like, no, I'm going to do this again and again and again. So I'm planning one for June. And another one for January. And I know for sure January, I'm going to try and go further out in Sedona, Arizona. That's going to take a little bit more push. So I was like, let me give it a whole year. A little push. But I love, quiet. Red rocks, like, there's these formations. They just look beautiful. And I was like, we're going there.
Right. Yeah. So. I'm just down to, like, see what it forms into. And I'm like, when you're like, you get a group of friends, you're like, I don't want nobody to come. I'm like, I don't know if it'll be different with, like, other people there, but I'm just like, the way that it happened for us, because who knows, like, who would have, last week or last Thursday, we didn't even think that this was, like, a possibility. Like, we had no idea. It was probably like, I'm going to meet some people, but we're not probably going to talk after that. But, like, to just have this space and be able to connect like this, and not even the space, but the connection that we have. I think it's just something that most people don't get. And it wasn't like, we just connected with one and I'm just going to stay connected with that person. It's like, there's a sisterhood of us. And even when, like, maybe one might not be interacting as much, but we have each other, or when, like, two are, they're a little busy, like, we can still do stuff with the three. And then when they get back freed up, we can, do something with them. So, I'm just happy that that was an experience that we got to go through. RJ, a little while ago, I don't know if he's still listening, but he said, fellas, we need to do the same. He said,
they always trying.
Y'all really been trying it today in the comments.
We've been trying it today.
And then he said a fellowship. For the
I like
fellas.
that.
Right.
That's cute.
I like that.
He should facilitate it.
Nice.
He should facilitate it and make sure.
RJ, you should do it. Go ahead.
Go ahead and do
you
it.
said it. Make sure what?
That is no women bashing.
Yeah,
Like,
we didn't bash men.
We didn't bash them.
We didn't even talk about y'all.
We were just
At all.
informative.
No.
Right.
Not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit.
Easily.
No.
Maybe we could do like, a space for the men and then a space for the women, and then we all commune at certain times.
I mean, like houses
Work
next
like
to
that.
each other.
Houses next to each other, or just
Or
like
even like a one-day
a wing.
thing.
You know what I'm saying? Like the men got a wing, the women got a wing. and
I
then-
just don't
you know. What I'm saying?
know. I
Like
feel
how
like
you know
the
how when we
energy
went to
shifts.
the spa and they had like a floor for the men and they had a floor for the women, then they had a co-ed area. Maybe that could,
I like that.
something
I
to look
am
forward to
interested,
in the forefront. But I think that we all need to connect. Period. Like not just women. Like Black people. Period.
Yeah, that's what I was
You know
about
what I'm
to say.
saying? Like we
Yeah.
need to hear from their perspective, just like they need to hear more from our
Yeah.
perspective,
That's exactly
and
what
we
I
need
was
to
saying.
connect and try to gain an understanding towards each other as a whole, as a Black community, for sure. Because we got to stick together. We have to learn how to unify. You know what I'm saying?
That's why I appreciated when the gentleman called earlier, because it's helpful for there to be a dialogue between both sexes.
Mm-hmm.
That way people know how to talk about a thing, not just like, I'm right. No, I'm right. You're attacking me. You're attacking me. It's like the goal is to understand each other.
Yes.
So the idea of like a co-ed thing eventually
I like
could be
that.
interesting.
Or maybe it's a one-day thing. I feel like that would be exhausting.
I think a one day, and it could be, I don't know. You could even still get an Airbnb, and just have like, okay, this is a thing that we're gonna do, and we're just gonna come together, and we just have more so of a dialogue. I think we had a lot of like just more than dialogue, but like I said, spiritual connections. And sometimes spiritual connections happen when you're not talking. So I just, I definitely, I love Black men and Black young boys, because I have my 3 brothers and then my father. So it would just be my mom and then them 4. So I was raised to nurture and care for the Black man, and most of the time, most of the guests that I have are Black men. So we definitely do like have those conversations, and I'm unapologetic, and I say what's on my mind. So the conversation that we've even had like earlier, the first hour, I've definitely had a lot of those conversations with a lot of the men that have come in here. So I hope it's kind of like something that they try to understand a little more. But yeah, I'm down for whatever, because there's another one, the 27th, right?
June.
But is that just
January.
women? January.
No, see, okay, I left it. Everything has been like open-ended, even for this journal, but I'm realizing sometimes you just attract who you attract, and it's kind of been geared towards women. But men are definitely welcome at the in-home one. So the next one is January 27th. If you go to my Instagram, there's a link in my bio, or it's simple, Right Back to You Workshop, but right with a W. WRITE, Right Back to You Workshop.eventbrite.com. They're always free. The in-home workshops is free if you have the book. So really, it's just the purchase of the book, which is a simple $15, and that's it. You come, and I facilitate the same thing we did at Joshua Tree, just like, stuffed in the 2 hours, journaling, affirmation bath, discussion, all of that. And so you get the retreat home with you, and then I'll still introduce like the longer form ones I will do later on every 6 months.
The affirmation bath was cool. I remember I was like, so is this like a sing-along, or like...
Yeah, you were saying, can I sing? I don't know if you want to.
Because I didn't know if we were like going to just be looking at each other. But when you said lay down, I was like, oh, okay. So like, because I'm just, that's what I said on the trip. I was just like, I was able to like be myself, and I'm like, But then, like, you had the peaceful Milena. So it was just like, you know, Milena came in and she was just like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go to sleep now, guys. And I just want to be by myself and stuff. So it was just like wanting to accommodate everybody. But, you know, definitely. Because the affirmation bath was like the first day. So it was just like we were kind of all like, "What are we?
I thought it was a real
what are we
bath.
doing?"
I thought it was a real.
Because
I was like, how many
too.
bathtubs?
Right.
Is it
Everybody just fall on top like sardines, right? Fall on top.
Like, oh, okay, let's lie down.
Right. But yeah, I mean, my God, it felt like a bath. Like it was like, and you just randomly thought about that?
I randomly, yes, I did. Well, not okay. It's not random. I'll take that back. You know, like sound baths. It's like with those little bowls.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, I like that, but I can't afford those little bowls. So what can I do differently? And I had like these songs like in this playlist that I would go to and I would listen and I would just like meditate on. I was like, wait a minute. These are affirmations. And I should do like an affirmation bath. And that's kind of where it came from. And I was unsure on how y'all would take it because I was like, they're going to be nervous. I wasn't explaining it right. I was, but then it still was like weird. It was like, we're going to lay down and listen to these songs. Like, what? Are we going to sing along? Or are we going to, I don't know. We're just going to do it. Just lay down. And then I was like, it was weird. But I think that I wanted to do it on the first day because I like diving deep, like immediately. Because I felt like if we just dived in there, then we would connect this. And one thing I loved about it, like the tears, like, I didn't have to know why we was crying. Nobody had to know why. We just knew that we all, it was just healing. Like, you crying, I'm crying, we hugging, we this, and I don't even need to know why, but I'm trusting. The whole time I'm praying, I'm like, okay, Spirit, just come in, give us what we need. Give us what we need. And it was the best part. It was my favorite part of the retreat.
Yeah, what was everyone's favorite part?
What was your favorite part, Shakira?
Let me throw this away. Hold
on. That kale soup. No,
okay.
No, my favorite part was the affirmation bath too. Actually, yeah, that really like set the tone for me. Like for the retreat, I was like, wow, yeah, that was my favorite part.
What about you, Ayana?
Honestly, just the laughter, like the laughter and the just connecting in general. But if I had to pick something, I would say I like the dancing.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was fun. That was a good time.
And then you said yours was affirmation bath, or did you have another one?
Mine was affirmation bath, and then the dancing, the end dance we did.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And then Ayana's solo dance. That was my favorite too.
What about you, Brittany?
I loved being in the I loved all of us being in the kitchen together. I really loved that. I really did love that. Like, it was just a way for us to like show our care for each other in such a small yet a big way. You know what I'm saying? Like, food is nourishment. So that's really big. But it was just like, oh, anybody want some of this? I'll make some. You know what I'm saying?
Rice Krispies at midnight.
Right.
Not mad.
I'm not mad.
She turned on the light. I was like, I don't want to play no more.
Listen, if y'all want these Rice Krispie treats, it's happening now.
Do you want them or not?
You know? And I enjoyed the journaling together. I've never, journaled with anybody else, so that was a totally new experience for me, and just being able to hear from all of us. And I think that I don't know, I was just crying the whole time. It was just so beautiful. Like, it was so beautiful hearing from each of us, and hearing myself in each of you guys, and hearing us in each of, I don't know how to really explain it, but I think that was just one of my favorite parts. And then, like, the peace. It was just so peaceful. Like, I loved being able to, like, go to sleep if I wanted to go to sleep, like, be by myself if I wanted to. And then I loved the freedom of, okay, I want to get back in there and connect. You know what I'm saying? Like, the flexibility, the fluidity of it, I really enjoyed, like, being able to just listen to my intuition. What is it that you need today? You need a nap? Go take a nap. You want to come back? Go back. You know what I'm saying? So That was, I guess I said a whole bunch. I didn't really pick one thing, but those were some of my favorite things about it.
What about you, Dave? Oh, wait.
I just want to say, earlier you said loving yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we were able to really love ourselves and listen to ourselves. Mm-hmm. And we came back full. Mm-hmm. You know, like everything that we're talking about was, in essence, like us learning how to love ourselves specifically.
Right.
And we got to share that with each other. So, yeah.
What about you, Deja? What was your favorite?
Honestly, I think everything that everybody was saying, those were my favorite parts too. But I also enjoyed when we played games together.
Oh yeah, we have to play those games again.
I mean, just overall, I enjoyed the balance that we shared. We were having fun together, and we were also able to have moments to ourselves.
Yes,
the community that we shared, connecting with God. You know, it was just a well balanced retreat that I think catered to every part of us. You know, so. But I guess my favorite part was when we would sit together, like the writing, or even though it was really cold and I couldn't wait to get in, I enjoyed when we were around the fire.
I'm ready to go inside.
But yeah, I mean, that was something that I don't experience, you know, every day or that often.
Right.
So, you know, that's that sisterhood we were forming, and like I said, the love that was shared, you know, all that.
Yeah, before I wrap up, because we're almost done, but I think my favorite part was like being around the fire, because we don't get to really be around the fire like that. I don't. Being around the fire and just talking, communing, and then like I think that one day we sung, and then the next day was during the morning time, and we just kind of like gave each other compliments. I just enjoyed like being outside and stuff. So we were outside, and then like the change of scenery, because at nighttime it was just pitch black, but you saw the stars and the beauty in the stars, and then you had the fire and stuff. But then during the day it was just like a coloring book, kind of like it was just open. So I enjoyed being outside so much, but I definitely like it. Just enjoyed meeting everybody, and I think meeting everyone. And a lot of times you meet people and you have up a guard, and you're like, man, this person might be, you know, a little iffy or whatever. But like genuinely meeting you guys, and then now being a week later, what is it, like a week later? We were doing the affirmation bath around this time, but and knowing like I really gained like a sisterhood, and I don't feel iffy about it. I don't feel like I have to watch anybody, or I don't feel like I can't share space with people, and just to like be comfortable in that. So I think that those were my favorite things, but I definitely do appreciate you guys for coming on a Saturday morning in the rain, to come be on the show and stuff. So like I said, after the show is over, I'll shoot you guys the link, and people can go back and listen to it. It feels like we did 2 shows, because the first hour was a lot heavier, but we ended up somehow tying it in, and got a call from Elena, so I wanted to make sure like she was a part of this experience. And then we talked about the retreat. So like I said, for those of you guys that are listening, you can definitely experience this. One, if you want to purchase the book, and if you purchase the book, you should just come to the in-house workshop that she's having. And I'm pretty sure the stuff is on, if you follow Kamari on Instagram, and we'll go around and do Instagrams in a little bit. But yeah, you should definitely try to. And like I always like to say, I'm very practical, so I know we're in here and you guys are probably like, what kind of experience was this that they had? But like, I think when you make your mind up to receive things, they come. And I think we were all at a point where it's 2019, we made our mind up to receive something, and we sure enough received maybe even more than what we thought we were going to get. So be very intentional about what it is that you want. Be very intentional about what it is that you want to change, and realize that it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen within the course of an hour. It is something that is step by step, because I'm pretty sure none of our problems have been completely fixed, but we're going through them peacefully, and we're going through them with less anxiety, and we're going through them knowing that we have a sisterhood that is backing us. But we still have to get up to go to work in the morning. We still have to get up and deal with the government being shut down. We still have all of that. So that is that. Also, LAUSD is going on strike. If you have kids that are in LAUSD, a part of me advises you to keep them at school because the 30,000 teachers, will be out of the classroom. Typically, there's about 5, maybe 10 admin at each school to cover hundreds of students, and it's not enough. So I would advise you keep them at school. What they are striking for is a 6.5% raise. They also, and it will be retroactive for the past 18 months up until now. We're fighting for smaller class sizes, and we are also fighting for more nurses, counselors, and librarians. Most of the time at these LAUSD schools, you have a nurse that's there once a week. So if your child is going through something that needs the attention of a nurse, an office person is dealing with it. So please stand with us as we are about to go on this strike starting tomorrow. They had the last negotiation was last night, and we heard that it didn't go so well. So we will be striking. Hopefully it won't be as long as this government shutdown, and we can get what we want. And then it benefits you guys because your children will not be in large class sizes. We're seeing class sizes to the point of like 40 students per one teacher.
Wow.
And that's a lot. So it's a huge load that we're asking for. Teachers are not getting paid because of the strike. So please stand in solidarity with the educators of LAUSD. And like I said, you might want to keep your children at home if you have the option to. If not, then you just kind of have to deal with it. But that is what will be happening. If anyone listening has children in LAUSD and does not know about the strike, it will be happening starting tomorrow. We're hoping it will last a few days, but I feel like the era of Trump is going on and people are really sticking to their guns. So we might see it be a little longer. The last strike was in 1989 and it lasted 9 days, and then the one before that was in 1980 and it lasted 21 days. So hopefully we're not seeing a strike that lasts that long, but we are getting ready to enter into that. So pray for us. Pray for the students because Lord Jesus, they're going to drive me crazy in particular because I'm also with special education. So so that's what's happening. That's like big news in LA. So make sure you guys are just staying up on that. And if there's any way that you can support the teachers, I know we had parents bring us cake just to say like standing with the teachers. If you guys want to bring water, because they will be marching around for a while. Or anything, or even just saying kind words or writing a letter to the superintendent or something. Anything helps. We're doing this for your kids, essentially. So that's that. And that is the end of the show, but I want to get everybody's Instagrams, and then the show will be over.
This is Shakira. My Instagram is at SHKRHH.
Hello, this is Ayana Monet, and my Instagram is at goldenheartedamb.
Hey y'all, my name is Kamari Carter Hawkins, but you can follow me on Instagram and all platforms at Kamari Carter, Camari Carter.
Hi everybody, my name is Brittany. You can follow me at Bree, BRI_M like Mary, ARKEY _sings.
Hello, this is Dejanay, and you can follow me on Instagram at DayJD. That's DayJuhd.
Okay, and that wraps it up. Thank you guys again for coming. I really appreciate
Thank you, Jasmine.
circle of sisters
Thank you for having
that
us.
came and graced this space that I'm in on Saturday mornings. But I won't be here next Saturday, so I probably have to pre-record. So you'll still have a show, but I won't be live next Saturday. I'll be leaving to Washington, D.C. to go talk to Trump. No, I'm just kidding. He don't want me, so no, he don't want no problems with me. I'm just kidding. I'm going to Washington, D.C. It was supposed to go to see the African American Museum, but the government is shut down, so that won't be happening.
That is
so
whack.
Yeah, but you guys, I'll still have a show for you guys. So thank you guys so much for listening. To the people that were commenting, shout out to Milena if you're still listening.
Milena.
Thank you so much for calling in.
Milena
We miss
Williams.
you. Yes. But that is it, and have a blessed week.